from Montreal to Miami, and you keep going back to Montreal, and you're not staying in Miami. It's a visit. So tell us why. Obviously, you have an incredible emperor. I mean, I'm sorry, you have a great leader in your country.
He's fantastic.
He's a fantastic guy.
He's fantastic.
So why does he keep bringing you back to Montreal? Is it by force? Is there certain things that we don't know about that he's threatening you? Why
he's got an extortion thing.
Tell us about it.
No, honestly, it's because of the golden handcuffs of being a tenured professor. So, you know, for your listeners who may not know, tenure is a wonderful thing, right? Because it allows you to have the protection to be able to do the things that I do, right? Imagine if the university could have fired me for any tweet or any paper that I published that they didn't like. So tenure in spirit is a great thing, because otherwise irreverent professors who are not part of the orthodoxy would never feel comfortable to be able to say the things they want to say. So in that sense, tenure is great.
How do you reach tenure? Does it take its amount of time, its amount of hours?
Right. So after you get your first professorship, you have a certain number of years where you have to build a dossier. The dossier consists of 3 elements. What have you published? So research, teaching, and service. The most important part is the research. How many papers have you published? How much they've been cited? How influential have you been as an academic? And then it goes in front of a tenure committee. And they decide either they're going to fire you, you have 1 year to leave, so you're not going to be granted tenure, or if they grant you tenure, you're permanent forever. You could never be fired unless you decide to quit. So tenure so it's great in that sense, but on the other hand, it makes you risk aversive, because if you want to leave, you're always in the backdrop thinking, I've got this professorship for life. And, you know, it takes a while to build your academic career. You have to have a lab, you have to have graduate students, so it kind of weighs you down, so that even though in spirit I very much would like to be making the move to the United States, I just got killed with horrific taxes, which we can talk about. It's been about 5-6 weeks. I've been walking around in a daze, unable to understand how the mathematics of the money that I started with and what I ended up with, how we can go from A to B. So I'm desperate to leave, guys, but we have young children, so that even makes me a bit more risk aversive. If our children were grown already, it'd be a lot easier to say, screw tenure, I'm moving to Miami.
That makes sense. And if you would leave most likely to a South Florida type of location.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, historically, I would have been a SoCal guy. I lived I was a professor at University of California, Irvine for a few years. I have a lot of family there. Every summer we go back to Newport Beach. In a week, we'll be going back to Newport Beach. But then the taxes and the wokeness in California is not that much better than where I am now in Quebec. And so Texas, of course, and Southern Florida have sort of become...
Well, there's I don't know, like in Miami, we have Little Havana where all the Cubans hang out.
Right.
I don't know if it's official, but here in Hollywood, Florida, I want to call it like Little Quebec.
Is that true?
Oh, my God. All the French Canadians are down here in the winter. You don't know that?
Yeah. I mean, I know that there are a lot of Quebecers down here. I didn't know it wasn't that specific.
Specifically,
spot.
right.
Yeah, there's snowbirds, right?
Oh, yeah. Every 6 months.
Guy comes up to me at church. He says, you know, Canadians own 500,000 properties in Florida.
Yeah,
I said,
believe
what?
it.
Is that right?
He says Canadians own, because he's from Canada, he says 500,000 properties in Florida.
I believe it. By the way, when he's talking about tenure, you know what? The first thing that comes to my mind, you've been very vocal about 20% of the bottom half of teachers, 20% of teachers on the bottom, 30% need to be fired.
Absolutely.
How do you grapple that with because all teachers have tenure of some support?
What he's saying is very interesting, because a guy with his views in a woke environment should get fired.
I wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes.
Well, this is when tenure backfires on them, on the woke.
Yeah.
But here's my question for you. How did Jordan Peterson get fired, and wasn't he tenure as well?
He didn't get fired. So with Jordan, what happened with Jordan is that when the gender pronoun stuff happened, he actually reached out to me before he became Jordan Peterson of great fame. And he knew of my show. And he knew that I was very irreverent. I wasn't an orthodox guy. So he reached out to me. He said, look, you know, I don't think many people are going to be willing to be talking to me, especially in academia. Can I come on your show? And that's how we became friends.
How many years ago was this?
This was 2016, maybe.
So this isn't crazy long ago.
This is not
6 years ago.
And you're in McGill, and he's in what? Toronto?
I studied at McGill for a bit. Then I went to Cornell, but I'm at Concordia. There are 4 universities in Montreal, 2 French, 2 English. I'm at one of the 2 English ones.
And he was where?
He was at University of Toronto.
Yeah.
He didn't get fired. He retired. And I think he retired. I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but we're very good friends. I know him well. I think it became untenable for him to stay in academia, especially given the amount of other things he's got on. And in a sense, I face a bit of a similar dilemma, notwithstanding the tenure. You know, I could turn on my laptop and reach 100,000 people, or I could sit in a classroom for 13 weeks and reach 30 kids. And I don't mean to denigrate. Teaching is very important, and I love it, and it's part of my DNA. But at one point, when you've got the opportunities that someone like Jordan or myself have, it becomes that much more painful to go through the grind of the daily life of a professor. So the research is still wonderful. I still love the idea of doing scientific research and so on. But the administration, how slow things move. You know, we will hold a meeting to decide on setting up a task force to have a committee to decide on whether we're going to have coffee in the faculty lounge. So we've just spent 6 months and probably $500,000 of professor salary to decide, I mean, literally on whether we're going to have coffee.
The coffee task force.
The coffee task force. That
sounds intense.
Very important.
Yeah.
It's very important.
So it's
Pat's does not like coffee in his offices. So we had to set up a task force here just to implement coffee. True story.
So it's very slow. It's so for someone like me, very entrepreneurial, very fast moving, it becomes a bit of a grind.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.